those of you know that aren't here tonight, to take part in a 6-part series called Gita Values. So this is Introduction to Gita Values. And I believe you'll be getting a printout, yes? Somewhere this evening, a printout, not now, of those 6 values, just 6 items you'll see at the very end of this evening, and a short paragraph that explains each of those 6 values, and they're sequential. And the goal is this. The goal is to be with Krishna in his eternal residence, his eternal abode, his dham, and Vrindavan Dham is that place. So that's the goal. We're starting at the goal. You know that say, begin with the end in mind? Anyway, Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. So this is the end. We're just at the beginning. We're headed for Vrindavan, to be with Krishna. The wisdom of Bhagavad-Gita. How old is Bhagavad-Gita? We'll start with 5,000 years. Bhagavad-Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, right? And in chapter 4, Krishna says, this very same Bhagavad-Gita I spoke long time ago to the sun god Vivaswan. So it's not the first iteration. An earlier is, he spoke to the sun god Vivaswan. And it's a very big number. Millions and millions of years ago. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan. But when he spoke it to the sun god Vivaswan, that wasn't the first time either. Because the knowledge is eternal. Before there was even creation, there was the source of creation. And with the source of creation, there was a sound vibration connecting that which had not yet happened yet, creation, with the source. And then the creation came, and then came that sound, with it came the sound vibration. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning of creation, Krishna says, in the beginning of creation I send forth generations of men and demigods, and with them this process of sacrifice. So the Vedas are co-eternal with Krishna. How old is Bhagavad Gita? It's eternal. And it's been manifest at different times, and now it's being manifest in the English language, so I can speak it. At least, it's simple message. Very ancient wisdom. And here's a little statement Prabhupada made. This ancient Vedic wisdom presents to the world a yogic way of life and teaches people how to become such a yogi who is not disturbed in mind, even amid the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger. Such a yogi is called the stage of steady mind. This is chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita, Dhyan Yoga. And where the mind is steady, it's not influenced by duality, because the realm of Krishna is absolute, and this place is not absolute. Far from it. It's a place of duality. Now, one of the places that I travel and visit is China. And everybody knows this in China. Here it's kind of like trendy, but in China everybody, it's a way of life. They understand the yin-yang symbol and principle. That is, wherever there's this, there's that. day and night, and anything you can think of. There's its opposite. Hot and cold, wet and dry, happy, sad, pleasure, pain, winter and summer season, honor, dishonor. Wherever there's this, there's that. It's a place of duality. It's just the nature of the place. So, we're in this place of duality and we want happiness. But there's a place of duality. So you don't always get happiness. You get the flip side too. You get the distress. And in Bhagavad-Gita, it explains how to go beyond the realm of duality, and it includes beyond this realm of distress. But that yogic principle, that little box that we saw before, how to go beyond the negative emotions into not just happy emotions, but transcendence. That's Bhagavad-Gita's message. So a little background. Remember, this is an introduction to Gita Values. That's where the train is going. Fasten your seatbelt. We're going to the Gita Values topic. Before we discuss the background of Bhagavad Gita, what's a little bit about Arjuna, because he's the one that's receiving Bhagavad Gita's knowledge. Who's Arjuna? Well, Arjuna is one of 5 brothers. He's the middle brother. He has 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers, and he's the middle brother of 5 brothers, the sons of Pandu, or the Pandavas. And long narrative in Mahabharata, but Pandu became the king, and their father, after the 5 sons were born, something happened and he died. They were in the forest, so the mother, Kunti, and the 5 sons were advised by the sages in the forest, go back to the capital city where you're protected. Well, they were protected and not protected because they were cousins. They wanted to become the king instead of the ones who were rightfully to become the king, and there was this the good guys and the bad guys conflict. A very classic theme of life and literature. People that abide by virtue and people that don't abide by virtue, and the clash between the two. So the image on the left shows Arjuna when he was young. He was being trained along with all the other brothers and cousins in military skill, because little boys need to learn from early age how to give protection when protection is required. When to give protection is another, that's a virtue. And how to is a science. So they learned the science, and he was the best student. The image in the back shows there was a contest for the young boys. Arjuna won because he was the best, without the details of the story. He was a superlative archer. And that archery skill was used later in his life when this is Draupadi over here, when the wife to be of Arjuna was the daughter of a king, Drupad. He wanted his daughter, Draupadi, to marry Arjuna, so he made a competition that only Arjuna could win. There's details, but Arjuna won. So it was the test of his archery skill. So she's holding the garland in her hand, and after he is successful, she garlands Arjuna and she becomes married to Arjuna, but not only to Arjuna, but to the 5 brothers. It's a nice story. But I want to go to Bhagavad. I'll tell a little story. The mother, Kunti, was not present during this competition arrangement. So when they came back to where the mother was staying, they said, Arjuna said, we have some good news. Kunti, there's something that I have gained in from the inside of the cottage or wherever she was staying. She said, very well, whatever it is you share with your 4 brothers. So mother said, whatever it is you share with your 4 brothers has to be upheld by the son. But how is it that one woman can marry 5 men? Who ever heard of anything like that? So they asked Vyas. And Vyas said it was foretold. It's a long story. It is to be done with the authority of Vyas, and so the 5 brothers married Draupadi. But the hand of Draupadi was won because of Arjuna's skill as an archer, and the skill as an archer became useful later when the scene, chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita opens, and there's this big battle about to take place that the Pandavas didn't want to have happen. They tried to make a peaceful arrangement, and it was rejected. Long story short, there was a battle about to begin. That's how Bhagavad Gita opens. And when the battle is about to begin, Krishna said, you know what? I'm not going to fight. Because these are my cousins and these are my cousins. I'm not going to take sides. So, tell you what, whoever wants my soldiers can take my soldiers, and I'll go with the other person, but I won't fight. You know the story. So Duryodhana said, fantastic, I'll take your soldiers. And Arjuna said, fantastic, I'll take you. But I'm not going to fight. That's okay. Let's be together. So Krishna said, all right, then I'll drive your chariot. I won't fight, but I'll drive your chariot. So Krishna is taking the position of the chauffeur, using our modern terminology. He was the car driver, the menial servant of his devotee and friend, Arjuna. So Arjuna says, before the battles begin, can you bring the chariot in between the 2 armies? And he's looking at the 2 armies, and something happens. From within his heart, Super Soul is saying, uh-oh. You know that one? Uh-oh. So he's feeling very distressed. And one way of looking at Bhagavad Gita is how to overcome the feature of duality when over here we want happiness and over here we find distress. We don't want the distress, we want the happiness. But you go for this and you get that because it's a place of duality. It's just the nature of the place. So, the Yoga of Distress, Bhagavad Gita. And here's some examples of Arjuna's distress. Chapter 1, Bhagavad Gita. My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Doesn't sound like happiness. It's big anxiety. Next, My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand. And my skin is burning. That's not happiness. He's feeling another negative emotion, fear. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. Pessimism. Doesn't look good. I'm out of here. Better for me, later, in the same chapter, if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed, because he dropped his weapons. Better they kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Hopelessness, despair. You know, the modern term is depression. So, Prabhupada's comment, the perplexities of life are like a blazing forest fire, which is not set by anyone. The miseries of life similarly appear without asking for them. So happiness comes, and sure enough, its opposite also comes, distress. Happiness and distress, it's just part of the place of duality. Now, yoga, and because another way of speaking about Bhagavad Gita, it's a treatise on yoga. And it's not just Hatha yoga. People today, when they hear yoga, that's what they think. But yoga is a whole system of elevation of consciousness to that place of higher consciousness that we saw in the first slide. That's what yoga does. It elevates consciousness. So yoga and higher consciousness can take you beyond, above, and beyond the duality of this world, both the happiness and distress. One is neutral because there's a higher happiness. It's a really simple example. Little children sometimes have a tricycle, and they can ride a tricycle as long as you let them ride the tricycle all day long. Does this boy have a tricycle yet?
Yeah, he has it.
He has?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now some adult could come along and say, ha ha ha, and ride the tricycle for a few minutes, but how long can they do that? Because there's a higher happiness. So those lower happinesses you become indifferent to when there's a higher happiness. Similarly, when by evolution of consciousness there's a higher happiness, that which draws one towards the allure of happiness in the temporary, which buys you into the duality situation of happiness distress, in higher consciousness it just doesn't hold the same value for you anymore. It's a whole other intention, contemplation, a whole other consciousness. But it may still come because it's the place of duality, and therefore the real battle that we experience in life is the battlefield of the mind. That's our Kurukshetra, modern times. This and that, this and that. So those negative emotion states, that's part of the duality field that we're in, can be a beginning, an impetus to, I don't like the negative emotion space, I want another space. Not just the happiness one. If there's wisdom, you buy into this, you buy into both of them. So what's the alternative? Is there an alternative? Like I shared with you, in college, there's got to be. I have full confidence there is a reality beyond all of this. I didn't understand even what I was saying. I just knew that there is such a reality. And I want to connect with it. And I'm not presently connecting with it. I'm in this duality place. So Bhagavad Gita helps one connect with that place of higher consciousness, the place that's beyond duality, and thereby address the problems that come with negative emotions. So let's take a quick look at how Krishna guides Arjuna out of negative emotions. It's shown on the left to another place. There's some messages within Bhagavad Gita that help you get there. It starts with knowing who you are. I'll share something with you. It's a little anecdote. China's a tough place to go in one sense, but in another sense, I've learned a lot from my visits there, and I'll just share one of them. One of the places I was invited to go was Chengdu. I never even heard of the place, never even saw it on a map, but someone said, can you come to Chengdu? And it was somebody that I knew that had studied Bhagavad Gita. And now they live in Chengdu, and they're a yoga teacher. So, you know, being an adventuresome fellow, I said, sure, let's go. And the person who invited us to 3 programs was a yoga studio owner, a lady who is probably in her early 40s, and very bright. You know, her light was on. It was, the exchanges told me, this lady's tuned in. So there was some exchanges during the classes, but there was a kind of rapport between us, and so she wanted to have a conversation after, just a translator, the yoga teacher, the new Bhagavad Gita, and myself and the yoga studio owner. So here's where the conversation began. Since I was a little girl, I knew that there's some mission in my life, and I didn't know what it was. Somebody said, do really well in school, because whatever your mission is, it'll help you. So I got into it. I did really well in school. But after some time, I realized that's not my mission in life, doing really well in school. And then I got some other advice. Well, you do so well in school, why don't you make lots of money? So I thought, sure, I can make. So I got really good. I made lots of money. And then I realized, that's not my goal of life, make lots of money. And then somebody said, of course not. You have to be a leader of other people and help them become successful. So I bought into it and became a leader of so many different things. And then I realized, that's not my mission in life. And then somebody said, of course not. You got to be charitable. You have to give to other people because you have money and you're good. You're so smart and you're a leader. So learn this charity program. She didn't use that language. So, you know, I've been charitable, but you know, something's missing. What's next? That was so. She didn't use that language, but that was her question. Where do I go from here? And so that was my turn to speak. I said, well, you know, you're this and you're that and you're that. I see you, how you dealt with your people downstairs. You know, because it was her staff. It wasn't like her clients. It was her staff. She has a staff of 45 people. She has, you know, so how you interact with them. You're an educator. You're very smart. You're very capable. But you don't know who you are. So I suggest, there's lots of other things, but what's next is to learn who you are. And this person over here, the one that she knows Bhagavad Gita, study Bhagavad Gita with her, and through your study of Bhagavad Gita with her, you'll learn who you are. She said, you're right. I don't know who I am. I said, come on, you're in your 40s, and you don't know who you are. And you're smart, and all these other things, but you don't know who you are. And there's more things after that, but learn who you are. So that's this. Bhagavad Gita teaches us who we really are. Not the covering. I'm Mr. Red Shirt, and I'm Mr. Black Shirt. I'm a sannyasi. That's the covering. Not who we are. We have some coverings. Gross body and subtle body coverings. We have our psycho-physical nature. That's not who we are. So we live according to our psycho-physical nature, but that's not who we are. So who are we really? Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to live in the world according to your psycho-physical nature, and while doing so, learn who you are. Not one to the exclusion of the other. Is a holistic approach. Who are you really? So I've been in communication with this yoga teacher and asked her how she's doing on that journey of studying Bhagavad Gita to learn who she is. She got really busy with business. That's what happened. She got distracted by being successful in the temporary. But, her light's on, so she'll get back to it. According to Bhagavad Gita, we're that spark of life, the Atma that's within, that is unchanging in the course of all the changes of body in this lifetime and into the next life and the next life and the next life. The unchanging self. Where do we come from? That's a good question. Who are we? Where do we come from? And where do we go from here? Like, what's the next step? And what's the next step? In New York, I didn't grow up in New York. I spent many years in New York City, but I grew up in a little place in upstate New York. If you know your geography in upstate New York, it's the Finger Lakes area. One of those little Finger Lakes. That's where I grew up. And then I came to New York to live in a Hare Krishna temple. And there's a lot of people in New York. But I'll tell you, there's more people in China than in New York. Grand Central Station and Penn Station and Port Authority, it's peanuts compared to the train stations and airports in China. And I don't speak Chinese, so when I go into the train station in Chinese, there's a zillion people going in all different directions all at once. They're pretty orderly about it, but they know where they're going. And all trains take you to somewhere, but if you don't know where you're going, and you just get on a train, good luck. You got to know where you're going. That's this one. Where are we going? Like, what's the goal? What's the goal? Get a good education so you can get a good job, so you can have a good income, you can have a good family life, you can have grandchildren, and you die. That's it, right? Is that it? Is that the goal of life? Really? If you do that goal of life, then it's the cycle of birth and death for you. But if there is a higher goal of life, and Bhagavad Gita teaches what that is. It's that first slide that we saw. Connecting with the source of everything in his original abode. How to have in simple language, have a more purposeful life. So each of the psychophysical things that you do and you feel You do them with a higher purpose, higher consciousness behind it. Bhagavad Gita teaches how to do that. So this is almost the last slide, so you got to pay attention. We're about to come to a screeching halt. There's this 6 Gita values, and they're going to show up one by one in the left box. Samadarshana, Pandita Samadarshana from Bhagavad Gita. Equal vision. There's lots of diversity in this world. How do you see unity within diversity? It's resting upon the unchanging soul within. That's the unity within diversity. And when there's that recognition of there's this one entity within the heart that's animating all the diversities, that one entity has opportunity to make choice. How to respond when life throws rocks at you and it hurts. You have choices. You don't just have to say ouch and throw the rock back. You can do that, but you have other choices. How to have choices resting on higher consciousness. Another value of Bhagavad Gita. And one of those choices is to act in relation to others where it's the principle of nonviolence, or compassion, or ahimsa, without harming others. How do I live? This is when I became a vegetarian. I didn't grow up a vegetarian. Mom and Dad weren't vegetarians, so we weren't vegetarian in the house. But when I was away at college, I became a vegetarian before I started reading Bhagavad Gita, because it was really simple. If I can live my life in such a way I cause less pain and suffering for other living beings, it's a better way to live. I don't have to take the life of an animal to sustain my life. So it's better to not take the life of an animal. I didn't read Bhagavad Gita to understand that. It was just, so, how to live your life in all respects, not just vegetarian, all respects, where you're impacting others in a less harmful way, or say it positively, you're relieving others of their suffering in the best possible way. That's real nonviolence. That's spiritual enlightenment. But you have to have it to give it. And if you have it, then you can give it. And then you're helping others to experience less pain and suffering. Teaching by example, nice principle. Humility, another Gita value. Each of these are seminar topics, and there's presentations connected with them. And finally, affection, or love. Priti. It's a nice girl's name in India. Priti. Means love. Prema, another nice name. Priti is the name that these Oxford University scholars chose. So these are values taught in Bhagavad Gita that help one go on the other side of negative emotions, not by more of the material happiness kind, but rise above the happiness, distress of the duality of material existence into the realm of transcendence, to this place of higher consciousness, to be in yoga connected with the source of everything, that high reality that it's good to have. I'll assume you're here because you have some confidence that there is a higher reality, like I did when I was just a kid. Some people have. It's a nice quality to have when you have it, and then pursue it. Bhagavad Gita helps nourish, instruct, guide, facilitate that inner aspiration to, in very practical terms, in day-to-day life. You can live in the world and internally not be of the world. You can live according to your nature, your psychophysical nature, while at the same time growing in higher consciousness, connected to the source of everything. And becoming very clear what that source of everything is, in very explicit terms. So those that are interested, my understanding, I'm a visitor and I'll be around for a while, but then after a week's time I'm going to other places and then other places and other places. But some people stay here and they're going to be offering this 6-part seminar on Gita Values. And I don't know exactly what the plan is because they're busy preparing prasadam to serve all of you as soon as we're done here. But they can explain to you, if you wish to take part, Stira? Here she comes. She's one of the ones that stays here. Okay, I'm wrapping up the presentation, and then I'm saying both Narottam and Stira. I don't know what the idea, who is going to do this, but my suggestion to both of them was, those that want to be part of this 6-part Gita Values seminar, let them know, and they'll keep you informed about when the occasion's going to be, the venue and the time and the place and everything. They're sequential, so it's good if you start at the beginning and go to the end, but if you don't, you can, I'm sure, get recordings. I made recordings of these in Detroit, so a link of the full audio video recordings of these presentations, 1 through 6 of the Gita Values. That's available. A printout of the little paragraph connected with the 6 values. Don't wait for this, mercy to fall on your head. I mean, it does, but reach out a little bit too. That is, take these principles, and it wasn't created by me. It's the Oxford University folks and some persons that do education and training like I do, and their work product is this. It's very simple, and it's something that can help you in your day-to-day life. So, little document, the 6 values, the sign up for the course or seminar, and some link that says if you can't attend, you want to just see the thing, then there's a link you can see the thing. Did I get it? So, you have any comment on what I just said about the opportunity? Either of you? Narottam? Okay. So, any comments, questions? Yes?
I just have one question.
Sure.
The seminar series based off of these 6 values that we are going to discuss,
Yeah.
is that the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita, or we are picking few main points so that we can go by the series?
Well, there's so much in Bhagavad Gita, you can't do it in 6 little lessons. So when I understand your question is this the essence? This is a snapshot of the essence. And then you can expand and expand. But it's designed, yes, to give essence. And then encourage you or whoever goes through the essence to go more deeply and get more essences. It's not comprehensive, it's simple. Palatable for the people out there. But essences are there, so even experienced people can go, wow. Does that help? Okay. Anybody else? I've learned to be very patient. I can stand here for quite some time until somebody comes up with a question. You're fine? Okay. Yes. Back. I saw her hand.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the knowledge you gave on Gita. I have one question, Maharaj, regarding preaching. So when we are outside and we are preaching, we are at work, and if we are distributing, how should we distribute? What approach should we follow to first, what should be the beginning? How should we start to distribute?
The beginning, how to start is, I'm an instrument. I'm, consciousness. I'm an instrument. I'm not the doer. I'm not. Let me abandon rescuer consciousness and take up instrument consciousness. Behind me is the person who I'm the instrument of. My spiritual master, disciplic succession, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna. I have this awesome group of people behind me, and I'm the instrument for their compassion and their will. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing is prayer. Then I wish to know the audience. I wish to know the person, so that whatever it is that I'm being the instrument of, it's relevant and relatable to the person or persons. Like that's what I started when I got here. I want to understand the audience. Because not just, I want to stand in front of people and say stuff. I want to connect with whatever the level or position that they're in. And then we serve accordingly, humbly and sincerely. And then another, very important, is the results are up to Krishna. I want to be responsive as I go along. Each step, have I made the right step or I made a misstep? So then do a little course correction in that exchange, if it's a misstep. But stay connected with being the instrument consciousness. Before speaking, I public speak a lot. It's one of the first things I do. Go inside. I'm your instrument, etc. Please help me understand the persons who you've assembled here, so that I can be an instrument for your message. Consciousness. That's the first step. Yes, something else. That takes care of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone else? Okay. Okay, sure. Next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, you mentioned about the dualities of this world.
Yeah.
Maharaj, so my question is that given that the nature of the soul is like it's always seeking pleasure.
Yes.
So, like, does it mean that given that this world is full of dualities, should we should we just neglect that nature?
No.
Of the soul to not?
No.
Please explain.
So, if I've understood your question correctly, If I've understood your question correctly, you're saying, should we give up the desire for happiness because that brings us into this realm of duality? No. Water exists, but it doesn't exist in a desert. So look for water where water exists, not in a desert. The nature of the soul is Sat-Chit Ananda. We don't go out of existence. Stay in existence, but seek happiness where there's real happiness. So that's another, besides who am I, what's real happiness? At the University of Illinois in Chicago, that was my topic. The happiness choice. So then you say, well, what's really happiness? And the material happiness is this duality thing. And that's not what real happiness is. Even you get it, like this lady said, something's missing. If you're honest, something's missing. So what's that something? It's the happiness within. That's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. So seek happiness within. That is, within, another way of saying within is, you have a relationship with the source of everything and connect with that source of everything, happiness, and that's real happiness. Not impersonal, but personal happiness. Okay? Is that?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Here.
Yeah, as I said, in Bhagavad Gita, we can learn many values. I wanted to know any one particular value which you really,
Outstanding.
is your favorite and you have applied in your life and like to share with us.
Well,
Apart from this, any value.
Yeah, the value of gratitude. That's real easy for me. But then comes what's gratitude. You get what you want, then you say thanks. But what if you don't get what you want? Is there still gratitude? Then that's not real gratitude. Isn't conditional. It's unconditional. But going back to this list, because I appreciate the thoughtfulness of the persons who created this, there is a sequence, and the first one, Samadarshana, is resting upon a spiritual conception of self and others and reality with a capital R. So you don't know real gratitude without that spiritual conception. Say it negatively. If you don't have that spiritual conception, you'll have a misunderstanding of what gratitude is. You have a misunderstanding of what compassion is. You have a misunderstanding of everything. Everything, the reality is grounded with a spiritual conception, and spiritual conception requires descending knowledge, not something else. Because in the world today, in the spiritual marketplace, there's lots of ideas of what's spiritual. It's all over the place. And I'm making this bold assertion. Most of that is not spiritual because it's not grounded in descending knowledge. It's somebody's notion, and some other people say, yeah, that's a good notion. Let's buy into it. And then they popularize that notion. And then after some time it fades because it wasn't grounded in spiritual reality. So the first one is to have anything that's sustainable, spiritually sustainable. It has to be grounded in a spiritual conception of who we are. Then gratitude. But gratitude can help you get grounded in a spiritual conception, just like the gratitude that I felt for what Prabhupada did for me. Some unknown person off there somewhere in Lostville, USA. And he found me. And there was gratitude, because everything changed. Anyone else? Yeah.
Maharaj, I want to know one more thing. If you could clarify, there are so many externals and internals that keeps,
So many externals.
yeah, both internal, external,
Oh,
like
okay.
influences and factors that come into play in front of you as an individual, because you are still identifying as a body,
Yeah.
not having connected to your
Correct.
real self.
Correct.
How do you go about dealing that, and how do you keep that enthusiasm going for you? Because over the years and years of experiences that you have, I would just like to get a little more clarification.
Okay. Let me restate your question and see if I've captured it. Say just the positive part first. There's something that keeps one going despite the fact that we're not fully there yet. We have a body, we have a mind. We know that theoretically, you know, we're not the body and the mind, but we have a body, we have a mind, we identify with them. So how do you keep going with enthusiasm when that's going on, and over the years and years and years, what keeps the enthusiasm going? That's your question?
That's exactly my question, and also because I know intelligence and heart come over mind and your body.
Okay.
And then comes your super soul.
Yeah.
So I know, and I have identified that my mind is weak.
Your mind is?
My mind is weak. My intelligence is not strong. My heart is not strong.
Okay, that's a
and I'm
separate.
not able to connect to that soul.
So that's a separate question. It's a good question. It's related, but it's a separate question. So, a couple of years ago, I was asked the question you asked, in a slightly different way, but the same question. And I had never thought about it, but my answer was immediate. And I've thought about it many times since then. There's three things. Gratitude. Second, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the third is chanting. So I'll explain. Gratitude, I mean, this is personal. You know, that question is personal, so this is personal. It's me, not everybody. I grew up in America during the counterculture period. Rebellious. And again, a little more. I was on my way to a medical career. I was accepted to medical college. I had bought into the paradigm that happiness is be successful in your career, and I chose medicine because idealistically I wanted to help people, and that was a good way to help people and use the faculties that God had given me to help people. So that was the trajectory. And then Mom and Dad said, you're getting draft notices at home. The Army wants you to go to Vietnam and fight in Vietnam. So, you know, stop your education. They want you to stop your becoming a doctor and go fight the war in Vietnam. And I thought, gee, the war is dumb, and it's double dumb. Take someone out of medical school to go do that. So I didn't even respond. It's a long story. But, you know, they said, you gotta respond, they'll put you in jail. So I found out that there's a conscientious objector form that you can submit to the government and get out of the draft. You know, classification 1A, get off and get your Army uniform, get on an airplane and go to Vietnam. So I got a form, and it says, first question, series of questions, government form, state the nature of your belief such that you cannot take part in the armed forces of the United States of America. I know how to get A in exams. You just get the right answer and you get an A in the exam. But the pen wouldn't move because I didn't have an answer. My answer. Like, what are my convictions? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I don't know what my convictions are. I'm on this career path of success, and all the yardstick, you're supposed to be successful, and I don't know what my convictions are. Whoa. I want to know what my convictions are. So I thank the United States government. They kicked me in the back end and started me to think about what my convictions are. And with that question came 100 other questions that I should have been asking, but I was too busy being successful to ask. So I did it kind of like a pause. I continued, but consciousness-wise, I wasn't just invested in the conveyor belt. I wanted to know. And I explained, and then I know that I don't know. That was good. That's important to know that you don't know. And it's important to want to know. And so I started looking at so many things, and in short, one of the things that I came across, my 8th Bhagavad-Gita was this one. Because I read 7 before and I didn't understand them. And this one was so easy to understand. So anyway, I began chanting. This is personal. One fine day, Krishna arranged, I was in a house, a farmhouse, in my senior year of undergraduate study, with a group of people that were all into different spiritual things. We didn't know that before we got together. But someone was into this and that and the other thing, and So one day, I took a japa walk. There were like 4 different mantras I was exploring in Zazen and Rosicrucian and this and that. And so, japa walk. Through the cornfield, out the other side, into the forest, over the stream, on the other side of the stream, through the forest. I just lost track of time and space. I was in this other place. And then out of the forest there was a clearing. And it was one of those like boom, 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 boom experiences. I saw the skyline of the city, and I realized in that moment that Prabhupada rescued me from that and took me to this. And he risked his life to do it. And he didn't even know who I was. And I didn't know who he was. And he risked his life to find me and rescue me from being lost in that. And then I realized I have to do something. I can't just be like a child that takes and takes and takes. And say thank you, but just continue taking. I can't do that. I have to give back. And all the way back to the farmhouse, it was like, oh no, my independence, my rebellious nature. I have to put it to the side. I have to give back. And that gratitude has been with me since. And it's matured and developed, but it sustains my enthusiasm. Because I received something so valuable, beyond my comprehension how valuable. And then chanting, and then I've grown to deeply appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. This weekend, Thanksgiving holiday, I'm plunging into the ocean of Srimad Bhagavatam in 13 parts, describing Dhruva Maharaj and the lessons of that section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4. And that sustains me. So now that's me, personal. Then, the other question, intelligence is not so strong, heart is not so strong, mind isn't so much controlled, what do I do? Is that your second question?
I know that I have identified my mind is weak because my intelligence and heart is not strong enough.
So there has to be, let's keep it short, alignment.
Yes.
And constant practice. Do you know who is Jiva Goswami? Have you learned who that is? I'm a Jiva Goswami fan. I look up to him like, wow. So Jiva Goswami has written in Bhakti Sandarbha, referring to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, saying practice has 3 parts. 1, every day. 2, for a sustained period of time. 3, with faith. It's going to take you to a good place. So alignment that has this practice every day, so the right kind of practice coming in this descending fashion. And then when there's alignment of what your mouth does and what your mind does and what your heart does, it's practice. And you just, you go to a chiropractor for alignment of your spine, and you follow bhakti process where there's alignment of the body, the mind, and the heart. And then as you get closer to alignment, you get strength. Day by day, and sometimes. Unsteady becomes gradually steady through purification. You have to stay the course. When you have an illness, allopathy says take a tablet, you don't feel the problem. And natural medicine says you got this illness because you have a lifestyle that's not in order. You have to take some medicine, some cleansing, some detox thing, and then have your system in order. You take the right medicine and the right diet, and it's going to take some time. You stay with it, you have a good physician, and the situation, and along with lifestyle changes, and so that's Ayurveda, and Bhakti is the same principle. It takes some time. And then you have the strength. And it doesn't come like snap your fingers and now I got strength. My intelligence is strong. The intelligence is weakened because of the identification with the temporary, which is who we are not. And is it possible? Here's the Srimad Bhagavatam. Devahuti says to Kapila, is it really possible? I mean, I get the philosophy, we're not the body and all that. And then you go up, and then you come back down again, because we're surrounded by the material energy, and we've been conditioned by the material energy since time immemorial. My dear Kapila, is it possible? And he says, sure. But there's only one means, and bhakti process dissolves the subtle body. The bhakti process alone has that capacity, but then the bhakti process has that potency. You have to have this alignment. You have the right terminology, the intelligence, the heart, and the mind, and you can do some behaviors, but with the heart and the mind, the intelligence aren't lined up. It's not satisfying. It's incomplete. So do the alignment program and follow the bhakti process very carefully under guidance, and strength will come, purification will come. And when Krishna sees you're determined, he'll give you the intelligence that won't get clouded by a mind that's identifying with the temporary. I want to enjoy. It's the bhakti process. That's the medicine, and then there's different elements to the medicine. Go ahead.
Can you please repeat all those 3 points that you mentioned? I missed them. I missed hearing them.
Abhyasa. This is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It's 3 Sanskrit terms, leaving aside the Sanskrit terms. Every day, that's 1. For a prolonged period of time, that's number 2. And with faith or conviction in it's going to take you to a good place. He doesn't use those terms. I'm using them to keep it simple. Because if you don't have faith, you do something, it's not going to produce, and you're going to get distracted more easily. That faith keeps you on track. But the practice, it sustains the practice every day for a prolonged period of time. How are we doing? It's 8:30. Are we ready for something else? You have something? Okay, go ahead.
Maharaj, so in Gita, Krishna said, in this battle, everybody is going to be die except you, Pandavas.
Everything what?
Everybody is going to be die.
Everyone is going to die?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Krishna told.
Okay, everyone's going to die. Okay.
Except the Pandavas. So, is this like everything written by God, something like distant, is going to happen? So, whatever the matter it may be, it's like pre-programmed.
So, where's the function of ichcha or choice if everything is predestined? That's your question?
Yes.
That's your question?
My question is like,
did I get it? Yes or no?
No. I didn't get that. But my question is, God is pre-programmed everything, like
No.
this is going to happen.
No.
He said like
your destiny can change through bhakti. Your destiny can change through bhakti. Should I give an example?
Yes, please.
Okay. Once upon a time I was a college kid and I was going to become a doctor. I didn't become a doctor. My destiny changed. Now, the psychophysical nature didn't change. I'm like a spiritual doctor now. And in my mother's family tree, everybody was either a doctor or a teacher. So I'm a teacher doctor. I'm a doctor teacher, a spiritual teacher, spiritual doctor. My destiny changed. Had I not come in contact with bhakti, my life would have looked different. The destiny would have looked different. It wasn't destined that I was going to become a devotee in this life. It wasn't a destiny matter. It's a good fortune matter. Kripa. And just a drop of that kripa fell and my destiny changed. Now, and take that's me, then there's any other example you want to give. Let's just say, there's many persons here, I'm guessing, that have a corporate job. It's not that bhakti is going to say, quit your corporate job. It's not going to say that. Krishna didn't say that to Arjuna. Arjuna wanted to get out of there. Krishna said, stay. Perform your prescribed duty. Mama anusmara yudhyacha. Mama anusmara, always think of me. That's not a destined factor. When you always think of Krishna, your destiny changes, you go to Krishna. It's not destined you're going to go to Krishna. It's a conscious choice to go to Krishna. Take another example. Someone says something mean to me, or does something mean. That may have been my karma, but I have some choices to make, how I'm going to respond to that. And it's not destined that I'm going to respond and say something mean back. I can make choices. And if I'm in lower consciousness, I'll behave like an animal. Someone kicks me, I'll kick back. And then there's other consciousness choices that we have. So, here's a very simple way of putting it. Supposing you know it's going to rain. You can carry an umbrella if it's going to rain, but you don't have to carry an umbrella. The fact that it's going to rain, it's already going to rain. It's forecast, and sure enough, here comes the rain. So that's a destiny. Now how you respond to it, you have choices. And as you make your choices, you're creating more destiny for yourself. But if your choices are connected to the Supreme, it completely changes the whole destiny situation. The laws of karma are no longer in effect. It's another set of laws. It's the internal potency of Krishna in effect. You clear? Okay?
Yes.
Okay. One more question, then we're going to roll to whatever the next thing is.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm just curious, I see the screen Bhagavad-Gita as it is. So I'm just curious, why as it is?
As it is? It's a phrase that Prabhupada liked to say. It's like a confrontation or a challenge, an objection to people that interpret Bhagavad Gita in their whimsical fashion. They take the words of Bhagavad Gita and say, this means that. For example, one of his favorites was, there is no battlefield of Kurukshetra. The Kurukshetra means this body, and the Pandavas are the five senses, and this means that. It's all allegorical. There was no battle, there was no battlefield, it's just an allegory to teach us something about life. And there are commentators that write like that. So, as opposed to the indirect meaning, interpretation meaning, that's what as it is means. When Krishna says, here's your, by name, Dr. Radhakrishna. You've heard of his name. He wrote, PhD, wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita he writes, when Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, he means not what he says. He means, fix your mind on the unborn, unmanifest within Krishna. Krishna is nice, but he really doesn't know how to speak properly. What he really means is what he didn't say. Or Mam ekam sharanam braja. You know that verse. Sarva dharmam parityaja Mam ekam sharanam braja. Commentary. Don't surrender to Krishna. Krishna says, surrender to me alone. Commentary. Don't surrender to Krishna. Surrender to the unborn, unmanifest within Krishna. And Prabhupada made a fist, banged it on the table, and said, see what he is doing. And he read it again and read it again. Krishna says, surrender to me. Commentary, don't surrender to Krishna. Surrender to something else that Krishna didn't say. He's nice, but he really doesn't know how to speak properly, and what he really means is something else. Therefore, as it is. When Krishna says, surrender to me alone, it means surrender to Krishna alone. When it says that Krishna is the source of everything, aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate, he means it. He's the source of everything. Everything comes from him. Not that everything comes from something else. So that's the as it is.
So that means common people, general people doesn't have a choice. They have to accept whatever they have.
Well, it depends what you mean by that, but let's just get real practical. I travel a lot. So if I want to know if the United Airlines flight is on time, I don't go ask the gas station attendant. I don't ask my friend. I call United Airlines because they're authorized to tell me is the flight on time. It's in their computer. Whatever the latest update is, that's what they tell me. So that's where I go to know if the flight's on time. Similarly, if we want to know what's beyond the temporary, we have to go to a source that's beyond the temporary to tell us. We can't get our flashlight out and find where's the sun. The sun is self-luminous. So this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is descending knowledge, and we must accept it if we want to know what transcendence is. If you or I or anybody wants to know what's beyond the temporary, we have to contact that which is beyond the temporary, and they can inform us. Otherwise we'll never know. So if that's what you're saying, we don't have a choice. You're right, we don't have a choice. There's the choice of you cannot know or you can know. And that the way to know is aparusheya shabda praman in Sanskrit. That which is beyond the fallibility of human being, the sound vibration comes, and that's our means of knowing, praman. Okay? You know, some people don't like that. They like the flashlight looking for the sun program. Okay, so we're ready for whatever's next.